to good evening, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 77 for Monday, 11th of December of 2022, 23. I'm sorry. I want to go back or relive them bad years. Nevertheless, we're grateful for this privilege for us to come on this panel here with Mr. Wade and Ms. Pitts. And our chairman for tonight is Mr. Gregory Brackett. He'll be in with us in a little while, I guess. I think he's right here now. So let me see if I let him in and make sure that we're not stepping on his toes, no? He apparently he was letting in himself. And I, okay, there he is. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We were just about to
Good
launch the program.
evening to all my virtual hosts.
Go ahead, Greg.
Good night to the people at home and abroad. Welcome to our 77th edition of Belizean Affairs. Tonight, I know we will have a lot to speak about. And good night to you, my virtual host that is sitting with me. Attorney at law, Ms. Pitts, you're always welcome. Mr. Wade, aspiring independent candidate from the Twin City, and no other than Mr. Leonard Brackett, my good cousin.
Mr. Chairman, before I finish up the introduction for the night, I didn't get a chance to tell you that our good friend, Mr. Gregory Morrison, said that he was going to make himself available to us tonight, and so we should expect him to come in at any minute. But what happens is he has that tough Los Angeles traffic to deal with, so he might just be in a few minutes late. But I'm just giving you a heads up.
Right. Okay, that should not be an issue. But since we already started, let's have this discussion, ladies and gentlemen at home and abroad, and to you guys, my virtual host.
We didn't do our prayer. We haven't. We were just
you
about.
You guys didn't know the prayer yet.
Mr. Weir was just about
waiting
to do that,
for you.
And then
okay, go ahead, sir. Have me an apology.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Greg, for that warm welcome. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, and again, we welcome always Miss Sharon Pitts, attorney at law. She inspired this program, right? And we welcome a female on the program, right? So with vast knowledge, and she brings to the nation, and she's also about people and nation. So with that, with that said, as always,
Mr. Weir, before we move forward, I just wanted to piggyback on what you just said about Miss Pitts, and say also that it seems like she's a very good mind reader, remote mind reader, because I'm all the way in the States here, and the lady dressed like me, so apparently we're thinking alike and coordinating colors, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry for interrupting.
All right. Yes, man. Good. But anyway, I will read from Deuteronomy chapter 31, 10 to 20. It says, and Moses commanded them that at the end of every 7 years, at the set time in the year of release of the feast of both, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord our God at the place that he will choose, you shall read his law before all Israel in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, little ones, and the sojourner within your towns, that they may hear and learn to fear the Lord our God, and be careful to do all the words of this law, and that their children who have not known may hear and learn to fear the Lord your God, as long as you live in the land that you are going over the Jordan to possess. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, the days approach when you must die. Call Joshua and present yourself in the tent of meeting, that I may commission him. And Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves in their tent of meeting. And the Lord appeared in the tent in a pillar of cloud. And the pillar of cloud stood over the entrance of the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, behold, you are about to lie down with your fathers. Then this people will rise and whore after the foreign gods among them in the land that they are entering, and they will forsake me and break my covenant that I have made with them. Then my anger will be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them and hide my face from them, and they will be devoured. And many evils and troubles will come upon them, so that they will say in that day, have not these evil come from us before? Our God is not amongst us. And I will surely hide my face in that day because of all the evil that they have done, because they have turned to other gods. Now, therefore, write these songs and preach it to the people of Israel. Put it in their mouth, that this song may be witness for me against the people of Israel. For when I have brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, which I swore to give to their fathers, and they have eaten, turned to other gods and served them, and despise me and break my covenant. That's my reading from Deuteronomy 10 to 20. Miss Pitts, can you give us a prayer, please? Thank you.
Dear God, as we come together tonight across the miles, as we come together as a people of Belize across the miles, as we come together as people of your humanity on earth, dear God, please bless and guide us. Thank you for all that you continue to give to us: health, strength, faith, hope, and the ability, dear God, to have some compassion, empathy, dear God, the ability, dear God, to live, move around freely, dear God, to exercise our conscience, dear God. And as always, let the words of our mouth and the meditations of our heart be acceptable in thy sight, dear God. Through the Spirit of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I thank you for your reading, Mr. Wade. I also thank you, Ms. Pitts, for your prayer. With that said, tonight we intend to have a good program. So let's go start by our first little music.
We want everybody. We want everybody. Give me some of your everybody. Give me some of that cassava. We want everybody. We want everybody. Give me some of your everybody. Give me some of that cassava. Sunday morning, me wake up with me fish, make a cook
Again, welcome my virtual hosts that are sitting with me. And welcome to our 77th edition, People at Home and Abroad of Belizean Affair. Let me first say to you guys sitting with me virtually, on Thursday, this coming Thursday, the churches are going to hold a meeting on the Constitution reform at the Parish Hall at Holy Redeemer. And as a guest, they will have an attorney from South that had gone through this process before. And what she will be dealing with is the basic structure and why the government is trying to take God out of our Constitution. And I'm throwing that out there to let the people at home and abroad know, because for the first time, I've seen the churches now want to step up to defend our Constitution, which should have been done a long time ago. Now, to get to our topic, ladies and gentlemen at home and abroad, and my virtual host, we know that the government has acquired back the port of Belize. And in doing so, we know that they have settled more than one liability with what Belizean calls the devil. Now, as part of that settlement, and I have mentioned it before, the government has went ahead and settled a 12 million or a 12.5 million lawsuit under the Act because of Waterloo. No, gentlemen, I personally believe that is something that has been done to pave the way for Port Magic. Personally, I believe that is what that was done for. Because on past platform, before this government acquired this port back, I had mentioned I believe that this was going to be a setup to get Lord Ashcroft paid off, and he will have no intent to want to really open a cruise port except to get the license and to put pressure on the government to acquire more money from the Belizean people. And with that said, I would like to go to Ms. Pitts first.
It seems to me that what we have to look at always, and it bears repeating, we must always look at these matters, as I believe you all are, from the context and backdrop of it's our patrimony that is being dealt with, our natural wealth, or land, or the cost attenuated to it, and so on. The free movement of people along the shores, along the right of way, whether for seaside pleasure, whether to go and read a book, whether in case of emergencies to freely land, and whether you just simply want to stroll or know that it's there. When you deal with these matters, some people tend to see them as just resources, or there's something that you call existence value, which is unquantifiable. What it seems to me is that we have, over the ages, we'd have this appearance that we might have this person willing, or this entity willing to invest and develop, and as though they are putting a lot in, and the sweet is always, or the carrot, oh, jobs will be created and so on, and you'll be developed. And I think some of our people want to see us look like other places and so on. But we are not a country name anywhere in the world. We are a country named Belize. And we have natural beauty, the wealth untold. No, this is a matter of public trust and care. In short, any of these developments could have been done on a national basis by a government. We have enough people with the wherewithal and know-how. We have our technocrats, we have our advisors, and we live in a world where one could easily look and see some of the good that's happening and avoid some of the mistakes. I have always maintained that when it comes to seaport and airport and land port and so on, those are national security matters, security interests, patrimony, open-ended revenue earners. And as part of our patrimony, the pride of Belize goes with it. It seems to me that generally, maybe it is that some of these deals are bad from the start. Sometimes it's best to leave your land and your, like a green trust or the existence value for everybody to enjoy as a part of your commons than to go into these schemes. And then it seems that the pattern is that the people are left holding a big tag. The people are left at the tail of whatever the business deals are, not understanding. And I wonder sometimes if our government officials don't understand either. And then it's almost like, you know, in Brian answer, they wash the same egg over and over again. So that there's a depletion one way, and then I know I use something with song environmental, but you know, like an accretion one way. Even well, like this, even with hurricane and so right. Sometimes land more storm come and it wash well land, sometimes it come and it build up. But it seems that we always get that bad part of it, the worst end of the stick, as old people would have said, no? It must be that you know what it is. It seems that everything's so layered and layered and layered. And is it that all officials or government or people who make decisions lack foresight and vision? Is it that our people walk with them, push our people to a position of destitution, that our people are despair, that our people walk with them belly in their hands, so to speak, and as somebody promised them a few jobs, or the despair that people get cynical that, you know what, no matter what people say, they want to do it because they're bigger than we, and then okay. And it goes back to what I keep saying, I think I said it once before, that you have an electorate, you have one so-called mandatorate, but it's not a dictatorate. And all of Belize, from all its segments, we have to have, as a country as a whole, one kind of protectorate to guard against these things. We have to have vision, foresight. We have to know how we are navigating. We have to know when it is that sometimes you just say no and stay where you are and shelve things, watch where the dust settles. We can learn from the mistakes of every country around us.
Miss Fitz, if I may, let me ask you this question, because I see where you are coming from. Will it be safe to say that we are in this position because Belize don't have a cap and campaign financing, and these political party goes to these individuals, get campaign financing, and in return they are to return favors and they get caught up?
I don't, that might affect things because you might have that kind of you know, they might have lobbying taking place and so on, right? The thing is, though, that I'm hearing you, but it's worth some real serious mulling over and consideration, because I don't know if it's a consequence of or just a coincidence, so to speak. Put it this way, if we were to have a cap on campaign financing, or even without a cap on campaign financing, I feel that if Mr. Leonard Brackett, for example, and I'll put him in the hot seat, if a developer came to him a certain way, I think he would want to trash things out. He would hem, he would haw, he would do his homework. He would get independent expertise. He would put on his thinking cap. He would watch his own learning curve. His ego wouldn't go to him. He wouldn't get ahead of himself and his people and his country. He would have the judgment, the wisdom, and the sensibility to say, you know what? We have the assets. We are the country where whatever would the fixed assets, so to speak, located. And if we're attracting so-called investment and ideas, isn't it that we really can carry those from the start? And if anything, then let's say it's a tourism enterprise. Then if it is that we can bank, so to speak, on our natural wealth and resources, there's only one Belize in the world, and people want to come here. So you have something unique, right? And when you look at it, the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System with 7 individually inscribed, you know, the first Jaguar Preserve. You have Belize City, this backway sea at the estuary with all the mangroves and the cultural and historical charm. And you go everywhere throughout the length and breadth of Belize. And I would say amazing beauty. And a people full of charm and certain other things, so that you would be saying, you know what, you'd be doing a calculus in a good way. You'd be saying, we have all these ingredients here. What it is that we have to be bargaining away and selling ourselves short.
Right.
So that my difficulty too is that I'll finish right now. I'm in a quandary, because if it is that a developer comes and says he wants a company or entity wants to do something here, I wonder why it is that as a country, we are left to feel, you know what, this developer will run away. We have no option but to pass a law in the House, enabling legislation, enable them to do what? To put a burden on our back? Is it the colonialism we got rid of that we will exchange it for corporate colonialism? The people never bargained for that. The people never give one mandate for that. I wonder sometimes if our leaders see the error of their ways, if they see that alternative routes. And I pray, God, that they have the wisdom, the humility to say, you know what? Sometimes better left it there, you know, depend with back. And
rightfully
something with tourism, before tourism, weren't Belize people eating better before tourism? Lobster was not
naturally.
Cocoa never did at $10 a pound the market. They never made it sell certain fruits by pound. Sugar not depends on shop shelf right now. Flour gone through the roof. Planting a banana, right? So that if it is about jobs and feeding your people, we can't walk wrong with we hand in our belly, whether as leaders or otherwise. And then, Mr. Greg, that goes back to your, what you were asking, whether it has to do with if a cap was to be put on campaign financing, whether that would do the job. But then remember, there are some inequities too. You have some people who are already veterans in politics. What about some novice with a good heart, with some expertise, or just the ability to be like the child who would be telling the emperor, you know what? Your new clothes not only not fancy, you don't make out a gold, you don't have ermine around your neck, you're just really naked, devoid of good ideas, devoid of good intention, right? Wouldn't that person warrant some support so that he
Miss Faith,
or she comes closer to a level playing field? So
Miss
sometimes
Faith,
we have to watch it, no? Thanks.
Miss Fitz, I will come back to you because I have something important. But with what you said and the question I asked, I do believe that both past and present government had fallen into the hands of Lord Ashcroft from campaign financing, and they both played a role in what is happening in this country. Before I go to you, Mr. Wade, Mr. Brackett, my question to you is, we know how Mr. Espat acquired the port. We know that after he acquired the port, he wanted to sue the government for not holding up to the bargain of helping him to create a tourism port, which was started really from the port area. Now, the question to you, Mr. Brackett, how can Mr. Espat, even if it was credited to him, be credited the port to become an owner without receiving a land title? Where and how did the government came up with a land title to the people's port to issue such a deal to Mr. Espat?
To start with, from the get-go, they didn't do what was right. It was never their intention to do what was right. It was always intended as a malevolent action, contrary to good governance, contrary to good stewardship of the assets of our country. At the time when that port was being dispossessed of from the country into presumed private hands, it wasn't just the port alone that was being dispossessed. They were running a scam where they were privatizing, they call it the grand privatizing scheme, where they were privatizing the port, the airport, the government printers, uh, almost all the assets that the government had, so that the government then did not have any means of making money as they used to do before. They turned around and they had to depend only on taxes as a means of making ends meet. And that's why they kept on raising the prices for the taxes on gasoline over and over and over, and running a whole lot of other schemes. But going back to the essential point that you brought out about the port, the fact is that the government was trying to facilitate capturing that port under the privatization scheme to a bunch of them as their retirement gig. They had done so with other things before. Okay? They did so with the BTL at the time, that had changed hands from so many different owners, from the government and private small investors, into the hands of Mr. Ashcroft as majority holder. Then it was taken away from Mr. Ashcroft and then credited to somebody else for an IOU, when we were being told that that Mr. Prosser, who had credited the stuff and who was taking out all the profit out of the company, had already paid, but not notifying us that he had paid with an IOU, which meant that he didn't put a penny down, yet he was taking away all the profit out of the company personally, and many other situations like that. The bottom line is that the government have the power to create documents for lands. And under the purview of the Minister of Lands, they can issue title or take away title and reimburse people for their personal private title under the schemes that the present system allows. So it wouldn't have been hard for them to go ahead and do the right thing, which would have been tell the public what they were trying to do, raise some money because the government was basically broke, as we say back home. And the IMF was telling them or advising them that the way for them to move forward was to go through the process of privatization. It was an IMF advice that these guys took to the ultimate level. That is, accept the advice of the IMF, but not to sell the assets necessarily directly to foreigners, which is what the intention of the IMF was trying to convey. That is, you could bring in foreign capital into your country by privatizing your government's assets. These guys decided to privatize the government assets onto themselves as private entities or individuals who had no money and was just dead raising on the assets by getting it credited to them. The government could facilitate who they want by writing whatever title they want, right? So when Mr. Ashcroft, as far as I could perceive, this was always the intention for Mr. Ashcroft to be able to have a way of getting back some of the money that the PUP party and politicians, they owed him over many years that they could not pay him back and had no way of being able to pay him because they could not do enough barbecue to raise enough funds to pay off those debts. So the way they settle those debts is as the Prime Minister did the other day and explained to us not the full truth. He gave us that information in a backhanded way when he said, oh, they are settling for all intents and purposes all these outstanding things with this man, so we can get rid of this man. But he wasn't saying that we are using the treasury to facilitate our own personal enrichment and to pay off this man so we can carry on for the ravaging of the country and its assets by using for we treasury as for one piggy bank, because that's really what happened. There was no explanation of the back channel process. All they come out and tell us, oh, well, we're doing this, or we'll be doing this, or we've done that. And at the end of the day, because they have the governance power entrusted to them, not trusted like they did with the port, entrusted, a different word, different meaning, different conclusions. The bottom line is that the government had the ability to provide a title to Mr. Espat and or to provide a title to Mr. Ashcroft as the answer to the direct answer to your question. But
Mr. Brackett,
these things that are hidden behind the
is so, Mr. Brackett, if
yes,
the
sir,
government could have produced a title to Mr. Espat, wouldn't that be against the law and unconstitutional?
No.
Because then wouldn't the port be for the people of Belize?
If you carry the question further, then yeah, become convoluted. Make a answer the question, first part of the question before, please allow me to do that. The government as a government is empowered with the power of the Constitution, which authorizes it to manage the country within the Constitution of the country. The Constitution of the country says that the Lands Department and the government per se have the power and the authority to manage the lands. If it's private land, the Constitution also provides for the government to be able to acquire those private lands under eminent domain for a public purpose. But the matter has to be settled as regards to whether or not it is truly a public purpose to acquire those private lands, because the Constitution also says they should not acquire any lands or get any interest in any lands that does not have a law attached to it to justify that purpose. And the way you justify that purpose is through Section 20 of the Constitution for judicial review at a court. A court is the only body that determines whether or not acquisition under eminent domain is legal or valid. But the government or previous governments have gone through these motions and done these things without following the proper prescriptions of our constitution. The end result is that, which triggers your question. Why then would the government give Mr. Espat government assets and provide him with what I pointed out to you just now, that the government have the right to do, provide him with a title to that property? That is government property. The government managing the affairs of our government, of our people, is vested with that authority. So they could have given him a title. Just as well, they could have given Mr. Ashcroft a title. But Mr. Ashcroft did not buy the property. He just acquired an interest in the property, which allowed him to freeze the property until his interest was satisfied. That is, that whether Mr. Espat was going to pay him off or come up with the money, which he could not have done, which is why the port was left languishing in his possession. And then now the government is recovering it. But the government is trying to bamboozle the public by telling them, oh, we are buying it back from the man. Which unto itself is a bold-faced lie. Why would the Prime Minister come and tell the public that when he knows better?
Mr. Brackett, I have something important to ask you. I will get back to you just from what you bring up. But let me go to Mr. Wade. Mr. Wade, we know that the present government always want to take credits for their accomplishment when in fact they are the ones who has created the monster. Mm-hmm. Under the Maritime Act, they have violated it when they went ahead and did the Blue Bond to save the so-called super bond that they created. Mm-hmm. Here again, we have them with this port that they have now acquired and want to get a pat on their back by stipulating that the past government did nothing to try to retrieve it, when henceforth they are the one who created it. Mr. Wade, let me hear you on that.
Well, guys, you heard, Miss Pitts, her what she says, and you heard what Leonard said. They all boil down to like, for those who have eyes, let them see, and for those who have ears, let them hear. We know how these guys behave, right? We know how the port came about, right? And we know that, what they did was just to reward some of their close friends and cronies, and so that next time around, support us and did what you did now, it will be bigger, right? So that whole scenario with the super bond, and they want a pat on their back. Now we must first realize that, like you said, they created this monster, right? And they're part and parcel. And in my humble opinion, both of them should be liable. Both of them, right? Past and present government. Because I'll just say something is that, before Briceño administration took office, the last House meeting, the then Prime Minister stood up and told that man, right, publicly in the House, that, if the PUP wins the next election, you, Mr. Briceño, you will take away all the contracts from BTL and switch it to your. That's a simple little item like that, How he knows that, right? How he knows that. And so that man said, that's what Briceño did. Exactly. 3-4 months after he took office, and then you hear Mr. Lizarraga come and try to patting it down. No, they didn't take all. They take everything away. They only some of the some of the contracts went over to Smart and a while. But if you listen to how these people do things, right? So my point, what I'm getting at is that they're all part and parcel. But not to forget, guys, that there's an election coming around very soon. Both election, city council election, town board election, and not too far down the road, general election will be called. And the perception out there, as we all know, my people, both at home and abroad, that man, Lord Ashcroft, runs both party. He is the man with the briefcase. He's the man that supports both parties because he wants to be in good standing in whichever one sits on that seat, he wants to be in good standing. So, this thing is larger than us, and larger than what you're talking about there, Greg, right? These guys, see that little sweetheart deal? They all sat in the conference room with Lord Ashcroft because Lord Ashcroft is not their enemy, Lord Ashcroft, because who gave him millions in this country. It's very same attorneys that sit in this government right now, and past and present attorneys, right? They are the one that has us taking the shaft by this man, Lord Ashcroft, because they made him to do what he does to us.
Facilitate.
Yes, but anyway, Greg, I will not comment much more on that. But like I say, election is coming around, and they want to take credit like Lord, well, I call him the devil. They gave that devil such a sweet deal, right? And here they mentioned about the 76 million that he just got not even a year ago, right? And the millions that man had raped this country. Like we are still slaves. He just coming here, flag
hundreds of millions.
He flag way, and to no end, this man have no end, right? But like I say, it's election coming around, and they want a pat in the back, like they recover the port, and Lord Ashcroft said, let's make this deal and make it look like you they do this thing and you will look so nice, right? But all I want are my millions, right? and we poor people, we I know I said the name, but we don't know what they happen behind closed door, and then the man come with that venom in the house so that the world could see that this PUP government did a good thing, right? And which they are part and parcel.
Mr. Weird, Belize people are out there right now needing money for buy one ramen because some of them really depend on a ramen during the course of the day.
Exactly.
And they can't come up with that money for buy the ramen, but they could facilitate this man with hundreds of millions of dollars.
So let me end by saying this, right? I end by saying this, that my people, both at home and abroad, you see how quick this man jumped with a stroke of the pen to award this man with our millions, quick with a stroke of the pen, and it take pain a belly, then turn over and have baby for giving a measly $30-something, and when in fact they had already raised the price of goods over 300%. So did they give you anything? And you see the pain they take to give the Belizean people a little something.
I'd like to contribute to you another small comment on your point, to elaborate your point. The government made agreement with that man to settle. Before those settlement was made, he had to come to the house and get the authority to get the funds out of our consolidated funds to pay that man.
So
he don't say that the man accept 45. Well, I don't remember the exact number. $45 million already US, and the rest will be paid in Belize money. $128 million.
So my
$128 million is how much in 5 years? Almost $25 million a year.
Like
I say, get out of way for the next 5 years.
So let me end by saying is that for me, my people, please look at what these people are doing to us, right? Please watch what's happening. right? And like I say, the worst is yet to come. That's I've been saying it because you're not done yet, right? And I'll pass it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. People at home and abroad, and to you guys, my virtual host.
Mr.
I
Chairman,
believe what is
can I add something to
happening
say about
in
what
this
Mr. Wade mentioned
country.
just now? Can I add something to what Mr. Wade was saying just now?
Yes,
Comment
go ahead, sir.
before we move on or change the subject or whatever. As Mr. Wade was talking just now, I overstepped my bounds in talking over him to try and convey this point that these people are trying to give the impression to our country and people that with Treasury is being used to facilitate resolving these outstanding matters with this man. But none of them ever explain, or Mr. Prime Minister never explained of his lengthy discourse on this matter, that the man was taking $13 million out of the port before, but now we are getting $25 million every year for the next 5 years. On top of what he don't get $140 million while he had it in receivership. On top of what he get $76 million the other day. On top of, they are getting another concession for another thing where he want to do at the hotel. This man have us over our and that concession
Mr. Brackett,
many years to come. How much hundreds of
Mr.
billions
Brackett,
to take out of which treasury? Go ahead, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Brackett, I will come back to you and that because I have something specific I want to ask you. But before I do, let me go to Ms. Spitz. Ms. Spitz, if the government says,
something will
if
come to
the
mind.
government says the acquisition of the port is for the Belize people, why is it then that our government is still using executive power to get what he needs done? Because I look at the news and I see that he has already appointed a board of trustees, etc. I believe that when that is done, the right way to do that was to involve the business senator and let them have an input as to who should be the one to run the port. Let me hear you on that, Ms. Spitz,
It seems to me
followed by
that
whatever.
what comes to my mind intuitively, right, is if these things are mired in secrecy and then the post let out of the bag when it suit whoever, when the deal done tied up and sewn up and so, and the money done the pass and the one what we call fait accompli thing done. Is it that the government can't trust the people? Mr. Goldsmith used to say with respect to certain things, when the diplomats and the ministers and the experts, local and abroad, get Belize into difficult situations, say have full disclosure to the people. The people of Belize will have more way to help the government come out of it. Now, the other thing is, if the government can't trust the people, should the people trust the government?
Good question.
Then
Good
you'd
question.
mention the business senators, but we have cliques and cliques and cliques in Belize, so I don't know. So you feel like you go wrong into a never-ending circle or a quagmire of disquiet, and you don't know where you stand, like shifting sand, then they switch and bait the people, and then they make this look, like with opprobrium, there's approval. We did this for you, and Belize will come through. And, if people are careful, actually, they end up they applaud for them. But the reality is, This brings something to mind, and I never want to switch, but I don't forget one of their utilities where I said to myself, a politician not afraid for free people because they do something where if we have time later, I want to touch on what may happen with WASA, but I don't want, like
WASA and BT and Belize
Yes.
Electricity Board.
Right, we will do that, Miss Fitz. And I really want to set something for you to really tell people about, but I will come back to you on it. Mr. Brackett, you
Yes, sir.
started something just now, and I want to touch on it because most people says karma is a bid under the civil assets and explain wealth bill. Shouldn't the government disclose how much the attorney have been paid? We have Ashcroft attorneys working with our government and representing him.
Inside of our
Shouldn't
government.
every payment that the government has
Mr.
done
Chairman,
within this deal?
Mr. Chairman, the Ashcroft attorneys are not just working with our government to facilitate these processes to a conclusion, but they're working within our government, paid by public money.
Yes. Before
Okay?
you
I need people to
answer
be
it,
aware of
as
those
I was
realities because
saying,
there's crazy stuff going on.
should it not be, since the government is saying the port is back in the people's hand under the Freedom of Information Act, every
They're
deal,
violating again.
every penny that was spent or taxpayers' money that was used to pay attorney be disclosed? Let me hear you on that.
Like I said earlier, they could not have gotten as far as the Prime Minister is claiming that they have gotten without coming to the House to get authorization to pay money that amounts in the millions of dollars. That is not within the purview and the authority solely of the Prime Minister as a minister of government. Those matters has to be dealt with at the House of Representatives, the people's house. The consolidated funds don't belong to the Prime Minister as his own personal slush fund for him to go and settle whatever he wants to settle because he feel like he's managing our affairs. He's elected by the people to manage the people's affair. That's why it's always said that we, the people, are the government of the country. They, the politicians, are only entrusted with the managerial capacity to manage on our behalf because all of we as the public, who are the true government of the country, cannot sit and manage all these affairs together. So we delegate authority to the elected officials. That's why the Constitution says we, the people, require policies of state, which the House must vote on and the Senate must assent to, and the Governor General must sign off on, and all those other procedures and protocols must be complied with. Otherwise, they're doing what we now call them as doing. They're actually breaking the Constitution and acting as scofflaws. The Prime Minister is out of his element to pretend that he could have just as well gone ahead and did what he did without suffering any consequences. Because if our democracy was functioning correct, just like how they take the previous UDP government to court, and the court ruled that the previous UDP government under the Prime Minister and that the Prime Minister himself was guilty of transgressing the how do you call it? I try to remember.
The basic trust doctrine and principle.
No, not that one. I'm sorry, but this wasn't that one. I'm talking about the money one, the bill that
you approve the money, that without take it to the House.
Right. That is the point that I was trying to raise just now when I mentioned earlier that the Prime Minister, currently Mr. Belizean, overstepped his bounds if he has already gone ahead and signed any documents or transferred any money out of we consolidated funds, which is the only place he could find that amount of money in the millions, without having gone to the house to get the authorization. Coming to the house as he did to talk about it is not an authorization process.
In other words, Mr. Brackett, let me help you here.
Go ahead.
He is doing the same identical thing they took the former prime minister to court for.
Exactly.
And the court ruled that the former prime minister was wrong. But now they come and are doing the very same thing and pretend that, well, to hell with it, who won't carry them to court, or who won't make, or who won't stop them from doing it? Then don't do it already. The ass need to be locked up. That's my problem. And then they're gonna lock up themselves. That's why we need UNCOC in place. We need some authority or power that is beyond what I could hold on to as immunity card to checkmate them and to send them to jail when they need to go to jail, and an arm that can reach in international bodies where their accounts are, because they think that their account abroad is safe. They don't know that we are aware of where their accounts are and how much they have in there when they go abroad, how much they go and take out, or how much they transfer for whatever other back deals they play and so on. We are aware of those things. What the hell do you think he himself, as part of the GSM, were able to brace up Mr. Musa during the Musa administration? We provided them with the information. But they weren't quick on the foot, so Mr. Musa just dispatched them, took them out of his cabinet to save his own self. Now he come with his puny brains to try. Man, I'm getting emotional. Let me leave it, Mr. Chairman. I yield back, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Mr. Wade.
Crazy, man.
I come
So
to you
sad.
now, sir.
It's so sad.
Mr. Wade, isn't it true? Because of the enormous bombardment of commercial that Lord Ashcroft was throwing after the government, especially with the Port Magic deal, it raises suspicion when they try to tailor that in the house that they were doing something illegal. And now that the settlement has made, that settlement was made so that there is no disclosure of the white collar crime that they were committing.
Exactly.
We see, my brothers and sisters, my sister, you see how all that scenario played out? Like, wow, it was a big, like, commercial, on the scenery that, wow, this is no good, and we tear that up and make a hullabaloo, and this man, they do something very detrimental to this country, and it's no good, and it tear it up. Knowing behold, he tear it up, like I say, it's just for a show, because anybody could tear up any piece of paper, right? So I don't think who he think him the fool, not to go back in the back room and come out with my worst one, right? And he played it out so nice, and who questioned the man? You have the super majority, and all of them sign on to it, and because, like the devil says that, it's just a retirement for the boys, right? And we have said that, what was going to happen, the amount of lawsuit, what that was going to happen, right? The guy was plain to be seen, and that man take that opportunity. Sorry for Belize, that devil. Sorry for Belize. He will continue to do, I said, man, Belize, look sorry for the poor taxpayers, man. I think I get enough of money from them people, man. Right? I mean, right, my belly full. Right? So, and not only Belize, this man do this. If you Google and you see this man do this to all over the world. That same man. Right? But no, right? Sorry for the poor Belizean, man. Sad reality is the man and Belizean, naturalized Belizean, not born in naturalized Belizean like Walatare, right? But, it comes to mind where I want to push this in real quick. You see how quick they jump to to do things for big corporation, and when the leaders tend to gain something, right? How they, quick time, we then cordial together, and yes, we get this man this deal and this man may, give me back so much and thing. But you have incidents where, like for instance, the incident of Monkey River, where this developer all of a sudden he won public beachfront when them poor people, Monkey River people, they use and know as their public space from generation. Well, my grandmother was, my parents when my mother born in Monkey River, right? What I'm saying is that then people may vex, right? Because all of a sudden this big and developer come and they drive them off of the place where they know they go beard, and then that for them land, and they know that for them generation and generation as their public space. The government says, especially the Minister of Lands, there's nothing, his hands are tied. Can't do nothing.
Lie.
No, my point is, I'm getting at is that how quick and jump to facilitate so much. With a stroke of the pen, the man get millions, right? Why couldn't they jump and give whoever? In fact, they have the authority, like we all know, most of us, to acquire that land. That's the government. If they come and tell you, Mr. Developer, you can't have this land because it's not for my people. I want it for the football field, or I want it for the recreation or the park. Who is that individual to say no or can't do it?
Mr. Wade, then shouldn't have began in the first place. And the beachfront, according to Fuila, 36 feet wide, is a part of our constitutional right to exercise.
We all see them coming out of the country and they hurry around the land all the way to the seafront. People go pay to have access. All of a sudden you got a Sunday morning, one go take one swim. That close off. That is so wrong. Right? And nobody penalize these people because the man go sit down in the office with a briefcase of money and butter them all of them from head to toe. Right? The next one left office, the next one come in, same thing. Come on, man. That's to show you the love when them people have for,
as the former Prime Minister said.
Right. So, my
bed
point,
of corruption.
Yes.
Hot bed of corruption.
So, I just saying these things, because it continued to happen to us. And these guys laugh all the way to the bank. I don't know how some of these guys sleep at night.
Oh, hello, Mr.
No,
if I could, Mr. Chairman, when you're ready.
I'm done. I'll pass it over to Ms. Spitz. Go ahead, Ms. Spitz.
Well, I'd wait for the chairman to get the green light now.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman. Your mic, Greg, your mic.
Oh,
your mic, Greg. Go ahead, Ms. Spitz.
Greg.
Go ahead, Ms. Spitz.
Okay,
Ms.
okay.
Spitz, I was coming to you and whatever you was about to say about.
You know, like funny, though.
I have something very important.
Greg,
yes.
Before you step forward, I don't know if you could see on your screen, Mr. Man looked like he was there. I don't know how long he was there.
Yes, I will let him in right now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Spitz, go ahead there,
Mr. Wade, you act something where bring back the thing to mind. This is with the water, right? And I want to say it for show how somebody every day deal with one of them big shops we come from some continent or far away place, right? And think like, then could just talk down to Belizeans and condescend, right? I get this true story. One certain Belizean family, young family, may live in our area, right? For a few years. And this water, remember when they began, same thing with water from the water authority, water and sewerage to the company and the them privatize, right? I think some of them want me come from Africa, South Africa. So how bad may they get with that? I don't know if you remember when they said that even if people take water out of their yard or off of their land, if you have aquifer, no? I know for we people culturally grow up with vat water, you got that little pipe off of
drum or barrel.
Drum or your vat, you know?
Or your
bucket. Drink it and swear by it, right? But that's water. Then even they try say that you can't use that, you have to get from the system. That was how bad it was. And I was saying that back then that extension of the right to life, a human right, attenuated to that, no water. They talk rum, you know, they talk oil, they talk water. So anyway, one morning, one of the so-called big shop decide he come to Belize and he are renting at the neighborhood, right? From another Belizean, well, look like me and you, when we own a relatively upscale property. So he gone to the neighbor now, and he look like he going to scold and castigate and frighten this neighbor. And when the person open the door, he must assume that's, you know, like a maid or helper, or this person would be trembling at the feet in the sight of this man and overawed. So his thing was that if he complain and pass a message, and he was saying it in English, you know, accentuated the South African whatever, that I cannot sleep at night because your dogs are barking and they are disturbing my sleep. Well, the Cruffy way meet, who could speak English in a better tone and so on than his, and with gentleness, answered him and said, first thing, I want you to know that you came from South Africa to our country, Belize. And in our country of Belize, we have freedom of speech. And even our dogs have freedom to bark. And by the way, if you're not sleeping at night, it's not because of the dogs barking. It's because of how you all want to chance and take advantage of the people of Belize with respect to the very water they could drink. Well, he was no dog, but he half for him metaphorical tail between a leg and left. He slink way fast. And I think that might have been an early inclination for him to pack up his bags and leave, which I think was hastened on by, I guess they must have said this and never the country where they may think then they come to. They never find people obsequious. Look like he never get the email where he did that, you know, certain things were.
That was part of the selling off of the assets of the country.
So when you say, Mr. Wade, how you don't know how they could sleep at night, I they tell you this Cruffy, this woman gave that one a scolding off and told him, I know the dog, the make him can't sleep at night, that he conscience because of the chance the people I believe the poor people, right?
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
Welcome, Mr. Gregory. Welcome, Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Morrison.
Thank you for showing up. And
Mr. Morrison, I welcome you.
What's going on? You know?
I am glad that you're here, and I want to go straight to you. Mr. Morrison, we know that the government has acquired the port back and claim it to be for Belizean. Sir, I have a problem with this acquisition because I believe since this said government has passed a civil asset and unexplained wealth bill, shouldn't the port fall under it? Shouldn't we should have under the Freedom of Information Act, where taxpayers' money, how much was spent for attorney, how much was helped in the acquisition of the port. And not only that, sir, my second question, so that you can put it all in one, will be what I call conflict of interest. How can we have attorneys that represent Lord Ashcroft that is also sitting in our government, working back and forth between this deal?
Well, I am one glad that the government have made the decision to acquire the port. I think a port and those type of infrastructure are national assets, and it never should have been sold off in the first place. And if we remember correctly, it was a previous PUP administration that sold it off. So acquire, I think, is a good thing. The problem, like you mentioned, is what is it going to cost us? I heard the Prime Minister said it's not going to cost the taxpayers a single penny. Well, what a gift we're getting, right? that it's not going to cost the taxpayers anything. And so I hope you'd be truthful, and the disclosure would point out exactly what the cost is. It's going to cost us immediately some money, right? I think $209 million. And it's going to cost us in varying concessions that they are giving to that Mr. Ashcroft partnership in the what they're deferring in the construction and reconstruction of the Fort George Hotel that he has interest in. So that's going to cost the taxpayers.
Years.
They're not going to be getting revenue and taxes. It will not be assessed against that property. So the disingenuousness of his statement is concerning. And so for that reason, we need to have disclosure. We need to have clear description of what it will cost us as a country. But in terms of the acquisition, I support it. In terms of what it's going to cost us and how to pay for it is still the issue that they need to resolve in my estimation.
Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Chairman, could you allow me one comment?
Just a second, I will come back to you, Mr. Brackett.
No,
Mr.
I wanted to make one comment to Mr. Morrison.
Yes.
But go ahead. Finish.
Based on the question I asked you, Mr. Morrison, is it safe to say that what the Prime Minister said, he's lying when he said it will not cost the taxpayers a penny? Then if that is supposed to be reality and truth, how did the attorneys get paid that was representing the government part?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say that the Prime Minister is lying, even when he is, possibly, but he's certainly not being clear with the truth to us. And also about the conflict of interest. There seems to be a lot of issues dealing with conflict of interest, and hopefully the disclosure will bring all that about. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, Mr. Morrison, isn't it safe to say karma is a bee, like everybody says? Because then when you created a civil asset and an explain wealth bill, you are having attorneys that is representing both sides. That is falling under unexplained wealth. You go to one side, you represent them, you come back to the government side, and you represent them. That is gross violation.
Well, we have, the funny thing about Ashcroft and his money trail is that he has corrupted our entire political system and political operators, because this is not unique to this party in power now. It is consistent across the board of all political parties in Belize. I remember.
Well then, sir,
some.
Well then, sir, is it safe to say that under the new law that we, the Belizean people, should hold our foreign minister accountable for unexplained wealth, along with Attorney Cowie, who sat in the government of Belize and also a representative of the Ashcroft regime?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it is necessarily going to be unexplained wealth. I think the funny thing is our system is corrupt, and we allow people to move back and forth so easily between private interests and governmental representation. And I think that there needs to be some. Just let me finish this one. Some countries have what they call a cooling off period, where it means that someone couldn't just immediately resign a position in government and then become a private person representing or challenging the government in certain affairs. And I think that that's probably something we need to look at. But I can't really deny someone the right and to work and to earn an income in their chosen profession. But I think that issue of that cooling off period of when you could actually make that type of representation needs to definitely be looked at.
I thank you for your input. Yes, I'm coming to you right now, sir. I thank you for your input, Mr. Morrison. But the reason I was output on that is because I find we have none other than Ms. Garcia, who is sitting on the board of different entity in our country. She sits on the Social Security Board. She sits on the BTL board. I'm surprising as per se the news that she was not appointed to sit on the board at the port. This is what I'm speaking about.
Yeah.
Now I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Holding on to the point with Ms. Garcia, she's also the CEO for the Ministry of Finance, isn't she?
Yes.
So wherever money is shaking and rattling, she's present.
She's there.
Yeah. And if we remember, she had
historically
some issues.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if we remember, she had some issues with money in previous administration. So,
which is where I was heading.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. And so that like your comment is, she's always there where the money is rattling. Actually, it's not the rattling kind that attracts her. It seems it's the one that just floats in the air.
But we have to watch something. So in national security, we have had in the past, wasn't it that somebody was close related to somebody in that regime to the west, which had an unfounded claim to Belize and was threatening Belize and so on. And then the person would have been privy to all
national
security database. And, we have to, sometimes we look at...
Miss Fitz, kindly fix your camera.
Overlook.
Kindly fix your camera, Miss Fitz.
Oh,
okay.
We got you.
We overlook some national security interest matters, right?
Yes.
Or what should be intuition.
Ms. Pitts, if you allow me, please, I want to get back to my comment that I was trying to, because I deferred to Mr. Morrison for a little bit, and then I deferred to you for a little bit, but I still would like to, before losing the point, I would like to close it off, and that is to say, what Mr. Gregory Morrison had been stipulating earlier too is that he doesn't have a problem with people working in private sector and then still serving the government. The problem comes in where if you are working in private sector and the issues that you're dealing with is not what you're dealing with as regards to the government representation when you're working for the government, then I can see that as being viable, or at least, everybody have to eat, and the Constitution say you're entitled to work in whatever system or process that you get a chance to work. My problem is the conflict of interest issue. That is that you are working for somebody like Mr. Ashcroft as his attorney on matters that is before the government or adverse to the government, and you're also working on behalf of the government on those same matters. And Mr. Ashcroft is giving you millions of dollars in fees, and the government is giving you a few pennies for your salary and a few little extra stipend, because you're not elected. You're just appointed by the Prime Minister, and you're serving at the pleasure of the Prime Minister as a member of the Senate, and being the lead person in the Senate on behalf of the government, as well as acting in a cabinet position in the cabinet as a minister, and a minister of a major, well, not only one portfolio, but multiple portfolio. You have more powers than the average elected minister.
Yeah.
And as the lead government senator, you have more power than any of the other senators them in the Senate. And then you're serving the interests of someone who's adverse to our governance well-being, and you're in the ear of the Prime Minister and other people in the government to facilitate a resolution to issues that are concerned to the outside employer who is paying you more than the government is paying you. Those are all major criteria that, but again, I'll say this, and I'll say it loud and clear, because I don't want to be misunderstood or misinterpreted. The reason why the unelected senator as well as Minister of Foreign Affairs is in the government in the first place is because of his connection to Mr. Ashcroft, and Mr. Ashcroft's connection to him, and his connection to the Prime Minister, and Mr. Ashcroft's connection to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister's connection to the unelected person whom he appointed. We have a cheering for the circus that's going on, but we, the Belizean people, are not getting a chance to laugh at the circus behavior, because we are the ones that are suffering the inconveniences and the derogation of what these behind-the-scene conspiracies are bringing to us as our final output. And that is where I have my problem. I don't have a problem.
Mr. Brackett, if I may, Mr. Brackett, it's not behind-the-scene conspiracy. That is the same reason why I asked Mr. Pitt about campaign financing.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
wait.
Let me explain to you. When I use the word conspiracy, I'm not talking about public visual issues that the public may or may not know about. I'm talking about stuff that is not public knowledge or public affair.
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming from a completely different perspective. So if you're going to step on my reason for using the word conspiracy, then you need to justify what is it that I'm saying that is contrary.
Let me justify it for you. I will justify it for you.
That's 7 minutes there, Greg.
Wait,
Mr. Chairman,
what you are calling conspiracy to me is been publicized, because we have no campaign financing cap. These political people goes to Mr. Ashcroft for campaign financing. When they get it, in return they buy votes. It's called conspiracy. There's no hiding behind that.
Let me just say.
And why did you object to my using the word conspiracy?
Let me just say one thing.
Far beyond that, you're
agreeing just say
that
one thing.
What you said is a conspiracy. And
go
then
ahead,
on my toe
go ahead, Mr. Morrison. Go ahead.
Which is far beyond what you're saying.
I think Mr. Brackett nailed it on the head. Mr. Leonard Brackett nailed it on the head.
Huh?
It seemed at one point the Prime Minister didn't have a choice in appointing Ms. Garcia. If you remember, there was a loud outcry at the first signaling that he was going to appoint her. And he said, I don't care what you guys say. I want her, and she's coming on board. So that
initially he rebutted and said that Nobody knows who he's appointing because he hasn't concluded his list yet. When in fact he had already published the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and then he made a statement that you are accruing to him now. Afterwards,
Yeah.
but in between
No,
there was some
I agree.
transpired.
I agree. So it seems to me from all indication was that probably he didn't have a choice in appointing her.
Powers above
that choice
him,
was made
powers
for
above
him.
him impressed on him to do what they wanted him to do.
That choice was made for him. And
Exactly.
and if we look, she was also in the previous government.
Exactly.
And so there seemed to be a continuity of the corruption.
Exactly. You got it right, sir.
Or the forced hand, the invisible hand, if you want to call it that way.
Mr. Morrison, doesn't that sound like President Biden and Netanyahu?
President Biden, Netanyahu, and the Biden son.
Back to you there, Mr. Chairman. That's
Gentlemen,
5 more minutes there.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask my good cousin if we can extend, since we are having a very educational and meaningful program tonight. We are covering a lot of ground.
Greg, to yield on that point, I would say yes, we can extend, but we cannot extend beyond 1:45.
Okay, that would be.
If you look at the bottom,
that would be most highly
look at
welcome.
the bottom of the stuff, it will tell you that we don't have the time, you know.
That's good, yeah.
But we could go to 1:45 as a max.
Okay, I thank you for that, Mr. Wade.
Go to Ms. Spitz now. Go to Ms. Spitz now, Gregory.
I will go to Mr.
Chairman.
Spitz, but Mr. Wade, I want to come to you because you are a new aspiring independent candidate.
Sir, you have to specify.
I want to go to Mr. Wade just for a second.
I know, but look, here we are to try to say. You have to specify and parcel or allot the time that we have left. Yes, are the questions and to whom you ask the questions. All right. Otherwise, you'll run out, and then some other people will still not get a chance to comment on whatever we'll have left. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm looking at it. Mr. Wade, I want to go to you quickly. Okay. As a new aspiring candidate, and you saw the by-election in the north.
Yeah.
How do you feel at this time, knowing all the side effects and what is happening in our government? Sir, can you display that to the people you intend to win their votes?
What I kind of lost there. Which one by-election in the north there, Gregory? I was out too, so they had a by-election in the
north. Yesterday.
Concepcion?
Yeah.
Concepcion.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
the red one, a by-election.
Okay. Well, that's a village council election.
Mm-hmm.
That's a village council.
Right.
Privilege of coming attraction.
Yeah. From a while back, I see that village as a village that is more prone to go to the UDP, But in terms of their little village council election, but the tide is turning, right? And people are getting fed up,
catching
on, right? And daily you see different things happening, right, with this government. Without consultation on the things they continue to do for their own personal. And smart people are catching. And sadly, that I would like to see independent people, independent thinkers, right, either from the UDP or the PUP. But like I spoke to some people yesterday. I say, we need to start to see these people for who they actually are, right? And the only change in this country will be a independent candidate, right, or independent party, right? Because, I mean, let's face it, in this country for time immemorial, it's only a PUP and a UDP, right? And for generation, we continue to see what they're doing to us, right? The other one come kick the ball, halfway, the next one come pick it up, kick the ball, but they all have the same agenda, right? They're all doing the same thing, right? They're all corrupted the same way, and they run the affairs of the country the same way. So, you know, as an independent candidate, you know, I would like to tell the people, you know, and I always say it, I call on all independent thinkers, you know, this country, and I invite the diaspora too, you know, come and put your name down, right? Because if you can, this is the time your country need UNO, right? And you need, like I say, independent thinkers, right? In this, like I say, in this country, either a red or a blue, right? And if you're not reaping anything from the UDP, it's your time, independent thinkers. If you're not reaping nothing from the PUP or depending on them on any way, well, you know, I call it, you know, stay where you at, right? But real independent people, it's the time, because like I said, people catch on, you know, people, and it's a slow process, but I think that sooner or later we will shivatize from this two-party system, right? Because then they do too much, and sadly, barefaced. They're right in front of your eyes, right? If they used to hide, right, hide behind your back and thing, right, and then continue to do it, well, people may start to see different, but the bare face, the things they're doing right in front of our eyes, man, right? So people are catching on, you know, and I call on independent thinkers. This is the time in your country, crucial time in your country, you know, to see where this party, this PUP party, to take this country down the wrong path.
Mr. Chairman?
Right? So,
yes, Mr. Wade,
you have that thing available to play?
So I said, you know, if you're not sucking anything from either party, put your name up. Country need you this right now, you know, this time. Country need independent people.
I thank you for that, Mr. Wade. Miss Pitts.
Greg.
I have an important question to ask you. This coming Thursday, the churches are having at the parish hall at Holy Redeemer a meeting on constitution reform with an invited lawyer from the southern region. The topic is they will speak about the removal of God from the Constitution and the basic structure. Ms. Pitts, are we getting at a turning point where the churches really wants to get up and defend the Constitution? I want to hear your intake on that.
It seems to me, Mr. Brackett, at Parish Hall, there was a man, I think, who was from an evangelical body. One of these bodies, I think a Protestant, but not one of the main.
Was that Stern?
No, I think it was another person.
Oh, okay.
And it seems to me that I don't remember what the details were of his delivery, but he was, in my view, presenting right front and forward, no? With respect to holding on and defending the church and God in Belize. I am unfortunately not listen to news. I know you know a lot of things, Mr. Brackett. But what you're saying, if I heard you right, is that the churches are going to Parish Hall Thursday coming to hear presentation from lawyer down south about what?
From
about
a
what?
lawyer about the Constitution reform. This attorney knows well about Constitution reform. She is from the southern hemisphere, somewhere in Chile or that part, somewhere around that part.
What I want to say to that, no, is that we have a council of churches. The council of churches is under the presidency of the bishop of the Methodist Church. We have very strong people in the churches, the Protestant, the Roman Catholic, the evangelicals, the Adventists, the Baptists, to name some of the mainstream ones. What we have is a country where our constitution and our people, the one thing that has kept us from the brink is our fear of God and our respect for God and being under God. I was taken aback, and maybe the churches had their way of doing it, that when they touched Good Friday, there was not that righteous indignation. And I'm expecting church leaders like Jesus when they may chasing gamblers out of the church. They take out their tambram whip.
The whole time
and
while
the church militant may get up and say, you know what? No way. We have too many church leaders who ponder to politics and ego and so on. And
part of the
I
problem.
beg the good Lord contain me in this, because I don't want to err and stray. And I have respect and an abiding regard for church leaders. But when you have it that then when they go discuss that, Brian said that he going a pastor go tell call good morning. How it is that you can discuss that? You rebuke that like you rebuke the devil. That would not be a part. It's just like with countries. You know, you have to have some things that are non-negotiable. Yes, you might say you pray over it and listen, and you could listen to everybody. And maybe that's the way to draw out and hear where but I have no doubt that up in our face, that kick could come up and surface. Remember the word I started to use? I never made use it from high school for someone to teach me. That is anathema to Belize. That is galling. That is something that we should, all of us, Sally, long time repentant, altar boys and the girls and so on, everybody should remember this is what we draw the line, this is what we chalk stand. And you know what? Chalk line. And the leaders of the church better not faddle with this. I said too often, Belizeans, we want to look spooky, we want to look polite, we want to be decent hosts, and we talk in riddles and so on. This is one why they said, the good Lord, the Jesus that we serve, may I pull out a tambran whip, and then better God for them tambran whip. And I can't tell them what to go listen to.
Miss Fisher will be right there Thursday night.
Their
and
authority,
I surely will have my
their
way.
authority,
I will
their
have,
authority, they don't need for second guess.
yes.
Or if they got their own church politics, we pander to some politician, they better remember that they serve God and they serve the people, and they have their constituents
Ms. Pitts,
who are the members of the churches. And at times they stop pander to politics and foolishness. Stand up for God. Stand up for the good Lord. Stand up for spirituality. If there's one thing saving Belize and our children need,
Amen.
but by the grace of God, we may have gone long time, and the grace is something freely given. But you're not spitting at the sky. Why host anything? Then
Sharon,
people should have said, you know what?
Sharon,
do somewhere else. Not gonna believe with that.
Sharon,
Amen.
Okay.
we are in
Mr. Brackett.
and we're limited, and I would like
Go ahead, Leonard.
to comment.
3 minutes to you, Mr. Brackett, and then I go to Mr. Morrison.
I need out you could give Mr. Morrison the rest. Just let me finish it quick. The only thing the church people need to pay attention to, and I'll do it like what Ms. Spitz said one time, keep it simple. The first statement in our constitution in the preamble stipulates that we, the Belizeans, subscribe to the idea that our constitution and our government must first recognize God as the supreme. In our constitution, that is the first sentences in the constitution, in the first paragraph of the constitution. So when anybody come, we believe in a demonism, and we have the right to believe in what they want to believe in, and come to try to tell we that we have to take God out of our constitution. The preamble, which gives the constitution its authority, stipulates by mandated requirement of the government that the policies of the government first must be subjected to the will of the people, because it serves the people, and that is the reason why it exists. And we, the people of Belize, accept God as our primary. I mean, everybody have the right for believe what they want to believe, but nobody have the right to overthrow for
We not take the brief for the devil. Make the devil advocate for himself, and then church minister and the bishop of Methodist Church and the bishop of Anglican Church and the Protestant leader, and so must understand. This bring to mind one lady, Kathleen Fraser, quiet, ladylike, Methodist. But there was a time, I remember, when she had to tell one of her church leaders, I dare you to go to a certain venue where they have something. I don't give the exact words, but she dared her church leader. In other words, righteous indignation. And allow your leaders to fall astray.
Okay,
if that is a trap that is being set, on earth will reach it that they're going to dignify that.
Sharon,
right.
We only have 3 minutes left.
Mr. Morrison, I come to you, sir, and just to express to you guys, the person is an invited guest, and she is not here to dismantle the Constitution. She's here to enforce the basic structure and to educate on the Constitution. Mr. Morrison, for your closing, sir.
Mr. Brackett, sorry, you confuse me just now, Mr. Brackett. Make we use a keep it simple and straightforward and succinct approach. Whether invited guest, whether trespasser, whether invader, we are God-fearing people under the Constitution with God. We don't want no contrary thing.
My dear sister,
go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Morrison, I come to you, sir, based on our topic tonight. Let me hear your open-minded presentation.
Well, the preamblance of our Constitution is quite clear that we recognize the supremacy of God in all we do, and there's nothing wrong with that. It still gives each individual the right to select the God they wish to worship. So that's not a problem at all where I stand, and it is the Belize tradition to celebrate Good Friday. But if we remember carefully how this was orchestrated, the prime minister or whoever made that decision did it on the very eve of Good Friday. They didn't give much knowledge, forewarning that they were going to release everything and allow things to happen that has never happened in the history of our country on that day, drinking and all that. And so I thought it was kind of
one minute left, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead, Mr. Finish up, sir.
I thought it was kind of in our face, and it was totally disrespectful of what our tradition and what our culture has maintained for so long in observing that day as part of our sacred tradition of how we live and how we celebrate as a family, to have then just open it up to say, tourism. So if the tourists want to do their thing, let them do it where they do their thing, and so I was kind of disturbed and quite shocked that it was done and allowed. and like Miss Pitt said, to happen so easily without a squeak from the people that we think should have held the government accountable.
I thank you, Mr. Morrison. I'm highly appreciative of each and every one of you sitting with me virtually tonight. I know that this is 77th edition of Belizean Affairs have been one of very educational. With that said, I would like to thank our people that are tuning in from home and abroad to this our 77th edition. With that, I would like to say good night and kindly tune in for 78th edition on this coming Wednesday.
Thank you. Good night,